So now I would like to call up my friend Dr. Wen Dombrowski, who is currently a medical director at North Shore LIJ. She has how many followers on Twitter now? 25,000, some ridiculous number. Okay, and I can't believe, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago? She's the ultimate sharer. She loves like passing information and telling everybody about everything. I said, Wen, there's this great thing. It's called Twitter. You're gonna love it. And right, and you love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and she's really great at it. So, so find her online at Healthcare Wen, and let me get out of their way.
Can you pull up the PDF?
Yeah.
So if you're not sure how to tweet, okay, so what you do is on your phones or on your computers, go to twitter.com, okay, set yourself up an account, okay,
Perfect.
and then when you tweet, use Medmo15. You have to put a hashtag in front of that. That's the same as the number symbol. Tell me if you guys already know all this. Okay, so, okay.
Good morning. Can you all hear me? So I just want to start off today by just asking everyone to stand up. Anyone who's able, please stand up. I know it's already been a long morning and we have a long day ahead of us, and I just want to ask everyone to reach up and try to touch the ceiling. I want to see who's the first person to touch the ceiling. And all of you lean towards the right and lean towards the left, and then say hello to someone you haven't met yet. So stay standing. So stay standing. So I just want to get a show of hands of who's in the audience. How many of you consider yourself entrepreneurs? Raise your hands high. And how many consider yourself investors? Any providers here? And anyone who hasn't raised their hand, what category would you describe yourself in? Make one up. Patient navigator? Lawyer? Okay. Any other groups?
Device development.
Device development? Go ahead. Marketing. Great. All right, well, we have a really diverse group here today, and I just want to thank everyone for playing along with the movement activity and just helping me get a sense of who's in the audience. Feel free to all sit down, and also if you can scoot in a little bit more if you're willing, just so we have a tighter group. So I want to start today by just introducing myself. And before I do that, I want to just give you a preview that what I'm going to talk about in the next 10 minutes or so is just sharing some lessons I've learned over my nearly almost 2 decades of working with interdisciplinary teams across the continuum of care. So currently, I am a physician, internal medicine, geriatrics, and my clinical focus has been on the medically complex and the socially complex patients. My work really focuses on essentially healthcare management and developing new business models, new care models, and the technologies that support these vulnerable, complex populations. As such, in my current roles and my prior roles, a lot of my work has involved with either directly working with or evaluating technology companies to see what can help patients and physicians and care overall. So what I want to just start with is, I'll just use this. So I think most of you who know me know that I'm a big advocate of patient-centered care and involving patients and caregivers in product development, product testing, product design. And today, my talk is not going to focus on that. My talk is actually going to talk about a different stakeholder group, which is also very important in the healthcare continuum, and this is clinicians and providers. The reason why I'm speaking about this is I am a provider, and Alex had graciously asked me to speak about, from a provider's perspective, how can providers be involved, but more importantly, how can non-providers engage providers in improving healthcare? So in this image, you see that there is a patient who's in the center, but who's surrounding the patient? Who's part of this care team? And I want to talk today about not just doctors. I'm very passionate about encouraging startups and innovators to really engage doctors, but I also want to think broadly about the rest of clinicians who are not just in hospitals and clinics, but also in other care settings. So one of the reasons why it's important to engage providers is that their feedback is really invaluable in the initial market research and user experience research phase, and then also as products are being developed, developed, and then marketed. You really need to understand this key stakeholder group, which is the providers and especially clinicians within provider organizations. So I'm just going to give an overview. Some of this is going to seem very basic to some of you, and some of this will be new to some of you. And the reason why I picked the topics that I have in the next few slides is I've actually gotten a lot of questions over the years where people are kind of confused about, well, what's a doctor, what's a medical team, what's an interdisciplinary team? So I want to give a high-level overview of this, and then if we have time in the end, I'd welcome your more specific questions. So on the left-hand corner, we have a list of physician specialties. It's so easy to just generalize and say, oh, well, I talk to doctors, or we have doctors on the advisory board. But there really are a very wide variety of physicians, physicians who might specialize in what's considered more cognitive specialties and thinking-oriented activities. And there are also physicians who are more focused on procedures and doing physical things to patients. Without reading the list to you, I think you can see that even within internal medicine, there's a lot of different subspecialties. And this list is not meant to be exhaustive, but just some common ones would be cardiology, GI, and endocrinology. And I mention these things because as you're thinking about what product to make or what service to package, or as you're taking something you've started already and you're trying to package it further, really think through each of these stakeholder groups and think about, initially I designed this for pediatrics, but maybe the geriatricians might like this more, or initially I designed this for general surgeons, but maybe this might have application to OBGYN, and really think through that checklist of all the possible specialties to make sure you're not missing something that is obvious, but not an obvious pain point or solution. And then on the right-hand side, I wanted to highlight these are some typical members of an interdisciplinary care team. I'm really passionate about working across the spectrum of clinicians and involving nurses, social workers, and also into some like physical therapists, chaplains, music therapists. And this list could actually go much further, but I'm highlighting these because sometimes the biggest pain point in healthcare is not a problem that can be solved by the patient or the physician. Sometimes it's the housekeeper who's the key person that you need to get to and help make their jobs easier. Or sometimes it's the food service worker, or sometimes it's the person who's pushing the patient to the x-ray suite. So really think through all the stakeholders as you're developing your ideas. And then I wanted to highlight some of the care settings. So stereotypically, I hear that a lot of startups will stereotypically pitch their product to doctors who are in hospitals or doctors' offices. But really think about, a lot of time, like most patients are not spending their time in the hospital. They mostly spend it either at home or in some sort of rehab or some sort of care that's not necessarily a hospital. And if we think through all the different settings where they're spending their time, we might be able to intervene on they're improving their health outcomes or preventing their health deterioration if we think about other settings where your products and services could be useful. So just to give a very high-level overview, and like I said, this is not exhaustive, in addition to a typical office setting and a typical hospital setting, also think about pharmacies. Someone earlier today mentioned Walgreens. There's also some pharmacies now that are within hospitals, so I think that's an interesting model as well. Also, there are research settings, and then within rehab, when people talk about rehab, it's actually a very wide and broad area. It's niche, but it's also very broad because you can do rehab in an outpatient setting, or rehab in a nursing home setting, or rehab in a hospital setting. And each of those have slightly different needs because there's a different level of staffing there's a different level of inherent infrastructure, different levels of barriers to adoption. And so understanding what are the details of each of these settings will really help understand how you can refine your product packaging. And within long-term care, we have nursing homes. I think most people have a stereotype of what that's like, but also think about long-term care outside of nursing homes and assisted livings, in the community, in the home setting, and involving community centers and community services. I really think the previous question from Kai from Merck was really on point about how does healthcare and technology really help the care of older adults, because these ultimately are the people who have the highest health burden. And last but not least, something I think the healthcare community and healthcare providers tend to forget about is that much of health and care happens in the community. So it happens in my home, it happens in your home, when you're sick at work, or when your kids are sick at school, or if you're on the soccer field or the playground. Like, patients are in the community, but also keep in mind providers are in the community. So nowadays, with more technology, a physician who used to have to work in a box literally can be on the soccer field, but texting their patient, providing advice to their patient, refilling their prescriptions. And as you think about the needs of these providers, really think about how technology such as telemedicine, asynchronous messaging, and chat, and video visits, and all of these types of telecommunications technologies, think about how these can transform the traditional doctor-patient or clinician-patient relationship and really deliver new ways of care. So just, I think, just to recap some of the reasons why I mentioned these care providers as well as care settings is really try to understand your local market and your target market and your local market as best as possible, because until you really have a deep sense of what the pain points is, the solutions may not fully match the pain point. And also keep in mind that even if you have it figured out with one customer or one test group, it may or may not apply to a dozen other organizations. So you have to keep doing that homework, keep asking for feedback, and ask, does your product, does your service make sense for the particular target users that you are now serving in other organizations? And at the end of the day, when you can understand what their current workflow is and how it can be improved, and you propose a solution, whatever that solution might be, you really have to ask not just yourself, but ask your potential customers and users, is this actually going to make your job easier? Is this going to make your life easier? Is this going to make your patients happier and easier to access care? Because I've met a number of companies that will say, well, we have an app, and you have to download it, and you have to log in, and you have to enter all your data, and then you have to press yes every time, and then you have to press no, and then at the end of the day, you have to say you have to download a report and then send the report. And I said, well, why would I do that? I would just rather not use it. So really think about, does what you're proposing really make it easier? And oftentimes I get asked, well, where do I find these clinicians and all these people that I'm supposed to talk to? When you've convinced me I need to go out there and talk to physical therapists, or I need to talk to social workers, where do I find them? One very straightforward way is networking conferences like MedStartr and the meetups that Alex has been putting on. You have a crowd of people who is already interested in technology, already interested in innovation, who's, some people are kind of more on the curious side, and some people are more deeply have expertise in this area. And you can start just with in-person networking. And then some of the obvious targets would be looking at professional directories, LinkedIn searching, and industry publications, including if you look at speaker rosters and bios, you might be able to find subject matter experts that way. Sometimes it's not necessarily like a national, international subject matter expert you need to talk to. Sometimes it's really the local, boots on the ground person that's in your neighborhood that's going to provide you the most feedback and the most time. So do not discount the feedback and the advice of your everyday clinician. All right, so I'm going to do a brief case study. In the previous slide, I mentioned that one way to find stakeholders to partner with, whether it's providers or clinicians, other clinicians, I frequently get, at least several times a week, I get a cold call email that will say, "Dear Dr. Dombrowski, I want to discuss with you a potential collaboration. Do you have time to chat tomorrow at 2 o'clock?" Okay, I hear some chuckles. So what is your reaction to that? I want to hear what people think. If I'm, for the people who chuckle, what's your reaction if you get an email like this, if you put yourself in my shoes? So someone said spam.
Well, there's no hook. I'm not interested. I'm too busy.
Great. So someone said there's no hook. There's no reason why I would be interested, and I'm really busy. And
they obviously have not done any research whatsoever into you, so that suggests extreme sloppiness. So I wouldn't be interested in any innovation that they have if they couldn't even hook me up.
all right, so Francie Grace was saying that it's these generic emails. It sounds like they haven't done any research about the recipient of the email. And so if they're going to be sloppy like this, why would I want to partner with them if this is the email they're sending? Any other reactions to this?
What is that collaboration?
Yeah, so one of the questions was, what is the collaboration? Any other thoughts about this kind of email? Go ahead in the back.
It's asking for a big chunk of time with very short notice.
Yes, so great. So good point back in the back. She mentioned that it's asking for a big chunk of time on very short notice. So I'm glad people are feeling similarly too, because I literally get this this is actually from a real email, and I get this type of email multiple times a week from multiple different companies. And the reason why I'm bringing this up today is that what I thought would be obvious to people is not necessarily obvious to everyone. So I'm going to actually kind of just walk through some of my feelings and reactions to this. This is going to sound very, very, very basic to many of you in the audience. I realize that. But I do think there are some entrepreneurs who are really well-intended, really passionate about their work, really want to make a difference with their company, that I want to just provide some general feedback and advice about to help you reach out better to your potential targets. So the number one message I have is to really respect the time and the people that you're reaching out to. You have to remember that if you're reaching out to clinicians, doctors, healthcare administrators, just assume they have not only a full-time job, but just assume they're probably working already 80, 100 hours a week. That's pretty typical for most clinicians nowadays, and most healthcare administrators are basically working lots of hours and answering emails on weekends and stuff. So when you send a message, do not assume that they're going to grab coffee with you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, because they have a job. They have patients to see. They have board meetings to be at. They have projects to do. And really also keep in mind that your message is one of hundreds of messages a day. It could be hundreds of emails a day, or in the clinical setting, physicians get hundreds of messages a day about new labs, lab results, patients who got a test, patients who had a referral, patients who needed a refill. So the message you send to a potential target, either someone you want advice from or whoever, you're literally one of literally hundreds of messages a day. So definitely, like several of the people in the audience mention what it is you're trying to pitch. Just be very upfront, succinct, like no more than a couple sentences. Say what it is that you are offering, what is the value you provide, and what is it you're hoping to talk about. Because these vague, hello, I'm not going to tell you what my company's about, let's just chit chat. I don't even know if I'm interested in solar panels for housing. If that's what you do, maybe I love that and maybe I don't. So be very upfront about what you are trying to talk about. And also realize that maybe the person you're reaching out to, you think they're really interested in your stuff, but maybe they're not. And allow an open-ended tone to the communication to say, if this is not of interest to you, but feel free to forward it on to one of your buddies who might be. Because sometimes some of the best networking contacts I've gotten is actually through a friend of a friend of a friend who turfed one of these emails to me. So, as I mentioned, just really mention what is the value proposition that your company or that you as an individual hope to provide, and to be upfront about that. So the last formal slide that I have before we get into the Q&A is I just want to talk briefly about the pros and cons of working with large healthcare systems and smaller providers. So earlier today we heard some of the companies name drop. We work with Cleveland Clinic and we work with North Shore LIJ, and I think it's really great to have the brand reputation on your decks to say you work with these well-respected heavy hitters in healthcare. But just keep in mind that when you work with a large healthcare system, you have not just one decision maker, but you probably have about anywhere from 20 to 50 decision makers that you have to pass through in order for your project or your product to be approved. So just keep that in mind. And then beyond just getting political buy-in and conceptual approval, there's a lot of legal paperwork, a lot of security audits, and just what I would consider bureaucratic red tape that is often more complicated in large organizations than smaller organizations. The other thing that I really stress, as large organizations, is that large organizations tend to need products that can meet many different use cases. And so oftentimes there will be products that pitch to me that say, we have a CHF app that calls CHF patients from hospitals. But I say, well, we have 24 hospitals that have a different process for, and we're not just treating CHF patients, we're treating diabetic patients and CHF and people with other diseases, and we're also taking care of patients in the clinic, and we're also doing a host of other clinical use cases where just a simply very focused and niche app is not necessarily going to meet our needs. So just keep that in mind as you think about, are you going to target a big provider to work with or a smaller provider? And also for larger organizations, especially if you want this to eventually scale, it's really critical to think about how you're designing your product to have administrative rights where a supervisor can control who's using it, where it's not just some random app that random people download, but is there a supervisor who can control what the content is or who can control who has logins? The flip side of working with smaller providers is you might not necessarily get the initial brand recognition, but you might get more one-on-one attention and faster processes if it's an organization that's forward-thinking. Now, not every small organization is open to pilots, but there are many that are interested, and they're in your backyards, and it's easy to get to them. So, so with that, I just wanted to wrap up and just ask if there are any questions. I know I've covered a smattering of topics, and just wanted to go ahead.
I'm Howard Reese. My company is called Healthy Practices. I've worked with providers for at least 20 years. One significant change in the last 2 years is a tremendous amount of focus on security and following HIPAA, and again, scrutiny like we've never seen before. I just wanted to get any comments you have on that.
Yeah, I mean, the risk of cyber attacks and hacking and medical identity theft has been rapidly increasing, and healthcare organizations are they're directly a target. So especially larger healthcare organizations are asking for very stringent security processes from the vendors and startups that they're working with. And I know this is sometimes, I know there are a lot of startups that balk when they say, what do you mean we have to have this much liability insurance, and what do you mean we have to have all this, fancy encryption? But the reality is there are people who are trying to steal the information, and also the government has very, very hefty fines. And I always tell people on my team, like, I know you all want to be famous, but you do not want to be famous on the evening news because of a HIPAA breach. Because the rule says if you breach over a certain amount, you have to publicly publicize it on like the local news, and you don't want your face on that news story. So, but thank you for bringing that up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's just absolutely inspiring that you show. I think it's inspiring that you show that the care team is more than doctors and nurses, but I often find that how do you collect, what's being done to collect the experience of at the point of care at all these different things from both the patient point of view and the point of view of the various clinicians and the people themselves. I think the housekeepers have a lot of valuable information about what's going down at the hospital.
Yeah, that's a great point, Francie Grace. And right now, a lot of the patient satisfaction surveys has been focused on sending patients a survey in the mail, which sometimes arrives weeks to months after hospitalization, for example, and patients don't even know who they're ranking and what they're ranking. And within North Shore LIJ, I've been having some internal discussions with some of my colleagues about how do we survey our patients on the spot, like at the point of care. How do we ask them, how do they currently feel at this current moment, and who did they just interact with, whether that's a physician, a nurse, or social worker? Because these other surveys are so generic that people are either going to be just, I hated it or I loved it, and they won't really give you specific enough detail about that, the individual interactions that can be modifiable.
I have a tiny, I promise, tiny short thing. I think we desperately need suggestion boxes that are handwritten at the point of care, everywhere through the hospitals. patients often have positive things to say, not to mention the patients' families. And you don't want to make the rest of the care team mad by saying X is the most fabulous radiation therapist you ever met. And secondly, sometimes you need to say, I can't believe this person tried to radiate my eyes. But patients are afraid, and they can't put that on the survey because they're afraid they'll lose their doctor.
Yeah, that's a great
So
point.
that's what we need, the old-fashioned handwriting that can't be traced.
How much time do we have?
One more question.
Okay, one more question up front.
Hi, Joel Herm with LifeTrend. Kind of a follow-on to that. There are about 40 billion hours of uncompensated health care delivered by lay people. Have you thought about any sort of technology play or educational play to train all these people that are caring for people in the home?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, a lot of my focus over the past years has actually been on technology to support caregivers. So how do you train non-skilled, non-professionals in supporting their understanding of what they should do or how to report symptoms? And so I would say personally it is an area of passion of mine because I am a geriatrician focused on elder care and disabilities. Whether or not there's like one secret sauce for all providers of job, I don't think we're at that point yet. So, but definitely I think that was a great point for you to mention. So, thank you.
Okay, can we get a big round of applause for Wen Kowalski? Thank you, Wen. That's great. Always good to have you up front. And tweet all you want, healthcare Wen. So now we're going to start our next panel, which is very exciting, and we'll figure out who gets the next snow globe of success. I would like to invite all of our panelists for the PharmaTech panel to come up. AJ Lociano from True Veris is one of our sponsors today. Thank you for coming. So find your seats. AJ, Dr. Sang, I don't think I've seen Dr. Sang here today. Dawn Bell from Novartis is here, I know. Dawn. And Laura McGovern from Publicis. Hey, Dawn. Joel Wachowski. Now, I'm sorry for putting you guys in these tiny little desks. I feel like we're back in school and those things that I don't know about you, but I couldn't fit into. So I'm sorry about that already. And Amy Cueva from MadPow is on the end. You're trying to figure out where you are. Tom, Dr. Sang. So I first met Dr. Sang, actually he was my brother's physician, believe it or not, when he was a practicing physician. I'm not going down that far. You don't know who my brother is? Anyway, so I went down to my first Health 2.0 down in DC, and he's like, oh, my doctor's going down there too. And I didn't know anybody there, and we sat next to each other kind of like, I don't know, in an Aspergy kind of way, for me at least, and didn't really talk that much. But he's been a great friend to Health 2.0, and we're glad to have him, and the rest of the panelists, really amazing folks. So our first speaker is, who's our first speaker, Tim? You guys all know Tim Brown from Antidote Solutions. Big hand for Tim for doing all the technical stuff. And Flora Chavez, our floor runner. And Mike Schwartz from Visible Me Productions is putting this all on MedStartr.tv as usual. As you know, that they're always the ones who do our videotaping. I've known Mike for what, 25 years? Something crazy. Yeah, well, it went the way of our hair. So who's our first? Umar Akbar from, a little help here?
Yeah, from
Navita Health.
Navita
Okay.
Health.
Okay, so is our timer ready? Our timer is not ready. Okay, so just, and I think we also only have 3 presentations again, right? You ready? Okay, so once again, you get 5, I don't know if you're here before, but you get 5 minutes to speak, and then you get 5 minutes of Q&A. You guys are supposed to be filling out 1 page each for each presenter, and then handing them up front to Ashish Patel from DocGraph fame. Anyway, so DocGraph used to be the company that raised the most money on MedStartr ever. Sorry, you got beat. It was awesome. It was definitely, they were like the first huge success. So timer's ready? Ready? Okay. I will get out of the way and leave it to you.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Umar Akbar, founder and CEO at Navita Health. Navignata Health is optimizing two-way knowledge exchange between pharma and physicians. We help physicians more quickly adopt innovative new therapies, and we help pharma brands optimize their launch trajectories. Like many entrepreneurs, before starting Navignata Health, I was entrenched in a world of TPS reports and bureaucracy. As the sales and marketing consultant at CS Associates, I helped a number of pharma brands optimize their physician engagement strategy. Throughout my 5.5 years as a consultant, I often thought to myself, there has to be a better way for pharma to be able to engage and educate today's busy physicians. My frustration was shared by pharma brands who continually saw their number of blockbuster launches dwindle over time. The result of this decline in blockbuster launches is losses of over $15 billion per year throughout the pharma industry. At Navignata Health, we passionately believe that the key driver behind this launch trajectory flattening is pharma's increasingly limited access to physicians. In particular, it's getting harder and harder for pharma brands to deliver the education and support that physicians need to quickly adopt innovative new therapies. We also believe that patients shouldn't have to suffer because of pharma's challenges in educating physicians. Meet Walt, a former high school teacher turned successful entrepreneur. Walt has recently been diagnosed with cancer. While there's a recently launched therapy that could help extend Walt's life by up to 5 years, unfortunately, Walt's physician has not yet received the education and support that he needs to become comfortable prescribing this therapy. As a result, Walt passes away only 6 months after his diagnosis, just as he's about to finalize a highly lucrative business deal with a prominent local business leader. Next, meet Dr. Zain and Aya Akbar, pediatric oncologists. Like many community oncologists, Dr. Zain and Aya are craving more effective and convenient education and support from pharma. Fortunately, we can help. Our oncology knowledge exchange can help educate busy physicians like Zain through our simple 3-step process. First, Zain shares his educational needs and receives an honoraria check as a thank you for his time and his insight. Next, Dr. Zain views a short educational video that has been customized to his questions and learning interests. Finally, Dr. Zain is able to multitask before work in the morning by scheduling an on-demand expert discussion with a leading physician thought leader. Let's hear from Dr. Babir Gary, Chief Medical Information Officer at a leading system in Pennsylvania, on what he sees as some of the biggest benefits of our knowledge exchange platform. According to Dr. Gary, I was amazed by the beautifully designed and easy to navigate user interface of Navignata's knowledge exchange platform. It greatly simplifies the way we can learn about new approaches to treating our patients. Another reason why we're so excited about Navignata Health is that we truly believe that the sky's the limit with our platform. In addition to oncology, we will help educate over 20 additional physician specialties and also reach some of the other important stakeholders, many of which that Wen just talked about, including nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and eventually patients. Navignata Health will also ultimately help support many of the 60+ drug launches that take place each and every year. Put it all together, and we're talking about a $1.3 billion digital marketing industry today, with a number that's expected to double within the next 3 years. With our cross-customer, cross-disease platform, our solution has a total addressable market of $900 million annually, of which Navignata Health will capture $125 million by 2020. Our customers are extremely excited about partnering with us to help solve their physician education challenges. Despite being in the market for only a few short months, we already have a paid insight generation pilot underway with Pfizer, and we are in late-stage discussions with 3 of the top 15 largest pharma companies in the world for an early 2016 pilot. We also have, our active pipeline has 10 of the 15 largest companies. And I'll conclude, that's why we're here today. We're looking to build upon our early positive momentum and also looking to do an angel raise at $300,000. Thank you.
Is that working? Yeah. Quick question. Is this primarily used to supplement current sales efforts for a launch brand, like white space, additional white space coverage?
Yeah, so the idea is that as rep access declines to physicians, so in oncology, for example, about 70% of oncologists place at least moderate to severe access restrictions on sales reps. So that's the increasingly large white space that we're looking to target.
But that would be your primary target?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, couple questions. So this is a very highly saturated marketplace for content, and companies such as Premier, that's a large GPO, just recently acquired. I think I forgot what the company is that does continuing medical education, and so Premier is actually going to the space. Merck itself has a subsidiary. Physician Interactive, that's also doing this. So what's your competitive edge? That's number one. And number two, how do you deal with the Sunshine Act?
Sunshine Act, yes. I'll take those questions one at a time. In terms of competitors, there's definitely options that physicians have for education. Where we're looking to be different is that we're looking to provide pharma-centric education to physicians, because that's an area where physicians...
Premier just acquired C City.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry. So a couple ways that we're different is that we're really focusing on providing pharma-centric education to physicians. We realize that physicians have a lot of other different options. The other area where we're different is that we're really focusing on the physician experience. We realize that physicians are extremely busy, they have a lot of options, so what we want to do is provide a platform that really pushes the right education to them, rather than them having to actively seek it out. And then the way we do that is we combine like the upfront insight generation plus the custom education. That's really how we're looking to differentiate ourselves. And your second question, sorry. Yes.
How do you report that?
Yep, exactly. And so all of the upfront market research, it's doubly blinded, so it actually doesn't fall under the Sunshine Act. So as long as we keep, as long as all the research is blinded, it doesn't need to be reported.
Thank you. So I have a couple of, so I take a little bit of maybe exception to a couple of your comments that you made. I just want to point them out. So you said that the key driver to this lack of the blockbuster and dampening of pharma revenue was increasing limited access to physicians. I'd have to say that I don't agree with that statement, and I personally think that the dampening of the blockbuster is partly due to challenges in innovation, but also due to changing of the physician as being the key decider of who gets what medicines. That's greatly changed, and what we're seeing in our own launches is really, that an increasing in the United States, increasing involvement of payers in deciding this. So, and then the second part is that doctors are craving support from pharma. I wish, as a pharma person, that were true, but I don't know if I believe that that's true. And I think that a lot of the restriction to access is because there's not a belief that pharma is bringing value. So why would physicians go onto this platform to get pharma education, which they maybe don't value?
Sure. I'll take a couple of those questions. Those are all, really good questions. In terms of the value of the support, what we believe is that, there's valuable support pharma can provide. It's the channel that isn't always, the most convenient for physicians. Getting back to what Wen was talking about, how can we integrate this into their workflow? And that's really what we're looking to make unique about our platform. It's really on demand, driven by the physicians, so they don't have, reps coming in disrupting their day-to-day activities. So it's only when they need it, so that therefore it would be more valuable. And then in terms of the driver, you're absolutely right. There are a number of drivers. I was oversimplifying things. I think another big driver is just the competition. You have a blockbuster today. In yesterday's model, you had 7, 6, 5 years where you were the only player. Now, look at immuno-oncology, for example. The first brand that launched had 3 months. And so how it ties into what we're doing is that you have a shorter window to optimize your launch, and anything that you can do to make as big as impact as possible. And we believe that by having the access and getting out there quicker with the content they want, that's really how you can kind of move the needle. But it's a great point. I agree.
How much do you make per doctor on your system, and how much does it cost you to acquire those, and how do you do that?
Great question. So the system is, our revenue model is based from pharma. So basically, we have 2 parts to our business model from pharma. There's an annual access fee. The way we see it is, look, we're helping you complement your sales reps. So we're providing access to, let's say, X physicians at the cost of one sales rep. And that number can increase over time. So initially, the access fee, once we finish all of our pilots, will be about $200K. And then there's also an insight generation fee, that allows us to deliver the customized education, and that's another $200K initially. So our customers are pharma.
Okay, and I'll just break that down all the way down to how much you get per person on the system.
Excuse me?
Per doctor on the system? Like,
Right.
I'm trying to figure out, the question here is you're claiming you're going to be able to make money by getting doctors on the system and paying for access, but I guess the fear in my mind is that you can't get these doctors on your system at a cost that's affordable for you to make money on those doctors.
So in terms of the cost per doctor, we don't really have additional costs as additional doctors sign on, because in terms of the upfront insight generation, that cost gets passed through to pharma. So it's not like we have incremental costs for physicians. And so really the key for us is we want to have enough physicians so that it's attractive to pharma.
That's great. How do you get those
how are we
users on your
recruiting
system? Like,
physicians?
are you
Got it.
buying them on Facebook? Are you doing Google ads? Like, how are you sending
Exactly.
reps to their office?
7
answer
words.
this in 2 words.
2 words.
Email campaigns. So we have an email partner who's kind of working with us, who has experience in this space. Sorry, that wasn't 2 words.
It started out well. So everybody, let's get a big round of applause for Dr. Akbar. Thank you, panel. You can talk to him afterward. Maybe you can talk to him a lot afterwards, since that is one of the things that I believe Novartis and Techstars are offering, is when you win, you're going to get a meeting with them to talk about, but maybe not Novartis after that one. No. So our next one up is Blue Mesa Health. Dr. Inet broke his foot, and even though they have telehealth solutions, we don't have telepresentation solutions. So I'm sorry that we only have 3 again. But we will have a special presentation from a great company to fill in some of that space. So if you guys are ready, and Blue Mesa Health, I believe it's Misa Nucio, or Nuccio. Misa, you here? All right, come on up. So we're going to get Blue Mesa queued up. You guys are ready? Your timer is ready? Okay. So we have some amazing people on this panel, as you've seen. We've got Joel Wojcicki, or Joel Wish, on Twitter from Techstars. As you know, Techstars is a great accelerator for innovations. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, they're not quite ready. And Dr. Zhang used to run, there's the innovation lab at Merck, right? One of the branches. It was M2D2 or something like that?
What's that?
It had some name like R2D2, M2, M2I2, yeah. All sorts of cool stuff. I will note, just sort of a housekeeping note, always speak into the microphone when you're on the panel or up front, because you are on TV. So this thing right over here is a camera, and what it does is it records it, and it sends it out to the internet. And on the internet, people can't hear you, and so it's just, so anyway, so make sure you're speaking into the mic, and that goes especially for you. Okay, so without further ado, timer ready. This is Eddie Camp, right? And Mary Camp. So thank you, Eddie.
All right. Hi, I'm Misa. I'm the Chief Health Officer of Blue Mesa Health. At Blue Mesa Health, we're pioneering a really innovative solution to the massive burden of chronic disease in America. And we're doing this using a concept called digital therapeutics. So we're at an inflection point in human history where more people are dying from preventable chronic diseases than they are of infectious diseases. People in this room are probably intimately familiar with the fact that chronic disease expenditures are astronomical. So they present a huge burden on the US healthcare system, and type 2 diabetes alone costs the US healthcare system $240 billion just last year. The majority of these costs are related to disease management and paying for hospital visits, procedures, and pills that are required to manage chronic disease. But in the last several years, there has been growing recognition that this problem can be addressed earlier on by preventing the disease in the first place. And it's this concept of prevention that forms the basis of what we do here at Blue Mesa Health. So we know from the clinical research on behavior change that there are 4 effective pillars that prevent type 2 diabetes. Those are diet, physical activity, social support, and coaching. So we know how to prevent most cases of type 2 diabetes, but the problem is that it's not easy for most people to engage with prevention in the first place because it's very disjointed. So although you may engage with a preventive health program at, for instance, a prediabetes prevention program at the YMCA, it's hard to drive across town and get in your car, and then maybe you have an appointment in a different part of town with your dietitian, and then you go to your gym, and then you shop at the market, and blah, blah, blah. So we're trying to bring this all together. That's why we have Transform, which is a digital diabetes prevention program. And it delivers all of the effective pillars of prevention by reaching people where it's most convenient on their smartphones. And I'll briefly walk through some key features of Transform that directly address the foundational pillars of prevention. So first, we provide a smartphone app experience that allows people to talk to their health coach via text, phone, or video. And we do this in a way that's whatever is most convenient for them week by week. So physical activity is the next effective pillar for type 2 diabetes prevention. And what we do is make it really easy to track physical activity remotely with activity trackers. And also, participants need to weigh in. So we make it really easy to track weight with the scale that's connected to the cell network. And all this data is pushed to our system and interpreted on a dashboard for participants and health coaches to review. The third pillar of prevention is diet. So we know that a really irritating part of diabetes prevention and the journey of diabetes prevention, we've learned this through some qualitative literature reviews, is that writing down everything you eat can be aggravating. So you have to take out a notebook and a pen and maybe carry these things with you. And if you forget to track a meal, you have to remember it and remember how much you ate. And so we offer a solution by providing a platform that allows participants to snap a quick photo of their food and upload it to the app. And images are read and interpreted by health coaches, and then individual health plans are made for each participant. The last proven pillar of effective prevention is social support. So we provide an in-app social network experience where cohorts of 10 to 12 people can support each other and post relevant information and support each other throughout their Transform journey. So we have some really exciting traction going on with our academic research partners, Columbia University Medical Center and Mount Sinai Health System, who are both committed to running pilot programs with approximately 200 of their employees in spring of 2016. And additionally, we have a partnership with Solera Health, which is a platform provider that connects organizations who deliver the diabetes prevention programs with enterprise clients who need them. So we have a fantastic team of experienced venture builders. Our CEO, Curtis Duggan, has experience in mobile product design and development, and I have 6 years of experience in chronic disease prevention. And our lead investors and co-founders at Stanley Park Ventures have experience in launching, building, and exiting technology ventures in the past. So furthermore, we have a great team of world-class advisors that include physicians and PhDs, as well as an experienced executive from a pharmaceutical company. So in conclusion, chronic diseases pose a huge burden on the US healthcare system, and our product Transform will make millions of Americans healthier, happier, and free of type 2 diabetes. Thank you.
So my biggest question is your competitive edge. So again, this field is very, very saturated. Omada Health just recently came out with their huge study in the clinical trial, looking at comparing patients randomized to their program, and they just recently raised quite a bit of money from Humana as well as others. So I think I would say that they're probably your biggest competitor. And then secondly, there's all these other programs, YMCA, United Healthcare. So I really want to understand what differentiates you versus others. And also the CDC has a recognition program. Have you achieved that? And what are some of your preliminary results?
Yeah, sure. So it's a great question. So yeah, Omada is a direct competitor. Noom Health or Store Health, also direct competitors. But we're different in 4 ways. Physical activity, and I'll go through these a little bit in more detail, but first I'll just give you the outline. So physical activity, food tracking, health coaching, and lastly, price. So with physical activity, right now their website boasts a pedometer that they use, but we're using a digital activity tracker. So our data is more immediate, and it's also it reduces the amount of friction that participants have to engage with in order to upload their physical activity data to their platform, or to their dashboard, I should say. And then food tracking. So we have kind of innovated this way of snapping a photo and then uploading it to the app, and as opposed to writing it or typing it through the app. So we've read through actually some of Omada's qualitative research that was one of the most irritating aspects. So that's something that we have that Omada does not have at the moment. Also health coaching. So we have a partnership with IBM Watson to automate some of the repetitive interactions that health coaches and participants experience together, so that we can overall then, the fourth differentiator would be price reduction, so that we can reduce the price over time, because health coaches are really our main cost driver. So what's your pricing model? So it's about $500 per participant. Theirs is $450. Last time I checked, it was $620.
And they share risk. Yeah. Sorry. So Omada charges $450, and also they go at risk.
So that's interesting, because I've heard now like 4 or 5 different pricings from Omada Health. I haven't actually heard $420 before. I've heard $450. So yeah, I haven't heard $450. I haven't heard anything below $500. A few of their videos say a few different prices, but that's interesting, and I would love to follow up with you and hear where you learned about this. And your other questions would be, the other answers to your questions. So the market is huge. 86 million Americans are pre-diabetic. Omada has worked with about 20,000 Americans at this point. So we have a lot of work to do. So that's my answer to your one question about how we're going to reach clients. And then lastly, we have a CDC pending recognition status. So we're still working because we're still rolling out our pilot program, so we're still working to get full recognition status, but we are pending recognition.
Quick question for you. I spend a large portion of my day looking at claims data, and typically we see diabetics have some of the worst adherence in the world. Oftentimes medication possession ratios dipping below 50%. So my question for you is in regards to adherence. Obviously many people in this room would support the concept of just simply taking your medication can help you as a diabetic. Does your platform do anything independently or in conjunction with other solutions to help address adherence for this population?
So we're happy to open, make our model transparent and work with other providers, like an endocrinologist who is working with a pre-diabetic patient. Our population is not diabetic though at this point, so they're in kind of this area kind of before the threshold of crossing over to type 2 diabetes. But certainly transparency with other providers and and networks is a huge, is definitely a value that we hold very closely. And then I would also just want to mention that we do assess for readiness to change with our participants by having them answer some survey questions that are based in health behavior theory, but then additionally we have a quick motivational interview with every participant before, just to see where they are in their readiness to change behavior, see where they are in their stage of...
Quick follow-up. So when they become a diabetic, do you give up on them, or do they go to someone else, or is that...
No, we don't give up on them. If they want to be in the program still, they're welcome to. It's really up to their provider to, at that point, kind of assess if the lifestyle intervention is enough, or if they should also be engaged in a drug regimen or something else. All right.
So let's have a big hand for Lisa. Thank you, panelists. Finish up your papers, and we're going to bring up we just did it. Consult Canary with Priya. I'm going to try to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize in advance. Priya Venkataraman. Venkataraman?
Yeah, that.
Okay.
Close.
I should not be allowed to say anything other than plain, boring American names, right? So we also are going to have a fourth presentation after you. So.
Okay.
So you're going to get 5 and 5 when we're ready. AJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about TrueVeris? Because I think you guys are doing some of the most interesting work in the space. It's not exactly traditional PharmaTech, but that's why they're so cool. So take it away, AJ.
Sure. Company's been around now, going into our 6th year of operation. We write software for the guess, the end-to-end, the pharmacy supply chain. So our clients include software solutions for pharmaceutical manufacturers, for large payers such as PBMs and health insurers, as well as large payers being self-insured entities such as Fortune 500, large unions, government entities, as well as retailers and benefit consultants and brokers. One of the reasons why we have such a diverse set of products and solutions is because you really can't help the pharmacy supply chain ultimately defining efficiency and better outcomes unless you have visibility across the entire spectrum. So we spent a lot of our time deploying these solutions. A statistic that we normally use is 1 in 10 prescriptions comes through one of our platforms. We continue to grow each year. And most recently, we just launched a mobile application because we help everybody in the supply chain. We kind of left out the consumer. So we wanted to leverage all of our knowledge base to help consumers. And the name of the application is OneRx that was launched this August.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ. And also thank you, AJ, for sponsoring. They're sponsoring the happy hour tonight. So anybody who wants to join us from 4:30 to 6:30 can thank AJ personally, or his team member is going to be here, who is Julie. Is Julie here now? I don't believe so. Okay, well, Julie will be here later. So without any more delays, timer's ready? Priya is ready?
Yes, I
Go
am.
for it. Have fun.
Okay. Hi, my name is Priya Venkatraman. I'm the managing partner of Canary Consulting. My father is an alcoholic. Around 25 years ago, we were in India and we got the support that my family needed to get back onto our feet, thanks to this group called Alcoholic Anonymous, which is by far the biggest self-help program for alcoholics. What the program did for us is really provide us the motivation, the support, the help that it needed and got us back on our feet. When I look at that and what now we are seeing in this age of the digital patient communities still remain strongholds to really drive and change behavior to be able to have patients attain their digital goals. If I look at 3 simple data points, we are looking at a lot of patients going online, talking about their drugs, diseases, what they need to do to be able to make themselves healthier. 75% of them actually are making decisions about treatment and drug decisions using online tools and using online communities. 90% of the 18 to 24-year-olds trust the health information that they find on social media. Essentially, this brings to the point that they are not just relying on each other, but they're also demanding for changes that will help them sustain good behavior, which will make them healthier and achieve their health goals. If I really look at changing patient behavior, a couple of things becomes very important in this area. And these are, I think, I would call the 3 biggest challenges that healthcare organizations have in being able to drive that change. The first is patient behavior changes at a fairly fast pace, the velocity. They struggle with it because you don't know how fast the patient behavior is changing. The second is in cases that it goes beyond the pill, their inability or not inability, sometimes the organizations are not structured enough to be able to engage with them on depth. And the third is truly make an impact in the health areas. So this is where Canary Consulting comes in. Canary essentially is a behavior-based intelligence platform that takes knowledge of patient behavior of the segment and maps it to individual patient preferences and experiences so that you are able to help them change that behavior. That's really our largest vision. Currently, where we are in this journey is we are already working with one of the large pharma organizations, a weight loss management product within that, and we are actually harnessing some of this data to be able to send early warning signals. So we've built this app called the Canary Alerts for Real-Time Actionability, CARTA, and what CARTA does is essentially scans the digital ecosystem and is able to talk about digital patient changes as they happen in the ecosystem. What we would like to do going forward is to be able to offer this not just to one client or 4 or 5 clients at whom we are talking to at this point of time, but be able to syndicate this so that it is really more relevant to the entire disease state. And going forward, what we would like to do is a lot of digital health apps, diagnostics, therapeutic devices exist across the spectrum. If there was a patient advocacy engine layer which does this matching, which sits on top of these services, it will make it more reliable and it will give that patient the individual attention that they need to be able to achieve their health goals. Currently, it has worked very well for us in the weight loss management space, and we believe that it would be applicable not just to lifestyle diseases, but to diseases across the spectrum. This is a snapshot of how the CARTA app looks like, which we have already implemented at one of our clients. And the way that it does is you log on to the app every time that there are changes in the digital ecosystem. It sends you an alert. You're able to log and see what the kind of alert is and then essentially go out and take action. The overview of what we are doing is we are helping this brand essentially go beyond their brand to build a larger holistic patient engagement program. So we power their detection engine, and then they enable us to go and do the engagement.
So you get actually a total of 10 minutes. So conceivably you could talk for 10 if you want, but this is the 5-minute point.
Yes, I'm done. So that's really what we are doing at this point of time. We are looking at building out the technology. We already have the app in place. We are looking at building the entire technology and getting a lot of clients on board. The team, and that's about it.
Okay, so panelists, do you have questions for Priya?
Okay, so I'll start. I'm not really quite sure if I understand what it is that you do. So, so maybe you can help me as so is this so you said you wanted to syndicate it, but it sounds almost like a bespoke solution. So like right now you're scanning the horizon for this weight loss solution to look at, conversations, et cetera. But so then so I can see this being sort of a bespoke, consulting services model, but how do you make this syndicated? Does it become like Google search?
No, so the way that we do this is at 2 levels. The first level is we are doing specific engagement models that we are building out for our clients. So currently what we are doing for Merck is that's what we're doing. We are actually scanning to be able to tell them where to go engage, and we are enabling this through the app. We have our own healthcare taxonomy that we have built, and we have our own algorithm which is able to detect changes in the ecosystem and send out cases as they happen. What we believe, as we've been doing this in the last 6 months, we have generated a lot of knowledge about this entire weight loss management landscape, the patient behavior, the segments, and we believe as we see this that there is an opportunity to syndicate patient behavior level, because when we've been doing this across the 6 months, we've seen patient behavior is concentrated across segments. So that's really the offering that we want to syndicate as we move along.
Have you validated your algorithms at all?
Yes. So the current Merck project, that's really what we are doing. Yes,
You're in the process of doing it. Okay.
So we've already done it, and we are rolling it out right now as we speak.
Okay.
What kind of collaboration are you envisioning apart from the pharma companies? I mean, the solutions we create need to be cooperative within the ecosystem. So have you looked at patient communities or payers or anything else to strengthen your solution?
Yes. So currently what we are doing is we are already working with one pharma brand, and we want to be able to take this across multiple pharma brands. Most of our solutions, which is basically the specialization which exists, is built on top of existing tools and technology, social listening tools which already exist in the marketplace, any kind of process flows tools which would be able to have them engage at scale. So those are we are building on top of existing platforms and tools, but for specific use case. That's really what we are doing at this point of time.
Okay. If there are no more questions. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. So let's thank Priya. So we've got one more speaker, Ashish Patel from Care. Put it up there, CareSet. I always think of them as DocGraph because they're one of our first acceleration clients. So when I say acceleration, so I met Fred Trotter on the corner in San Francisco 3 years ago, and he wanted to go up on stage at an event just like this. And he had a deck kind of just like this that he just threw together. And he said, I don't know who I'm going to sell this to. I want to get partners. And I said, well, put out there something on the site that says people can adopt this, and for $1,000 they can get this, and $5,000 they can get that. So they got 29 partners over the next 40 days, including the Conference Board and Vitals.com and CheckMD and all these other companies. And I think what we learned is that if we put out our ideas and we engage people, then we will get what we want and the momentum that we need. I think to go back to Priya's talk, this is kind of Startups Anonymous, and my name is Alex Fair and I have a startup. And it's like that, okay? But if you don't get the support from the partners and the patients and the providers, the institutions and the investors, usually in that order, then you're not going to make it. And you'll have to move on to something else or go back to your day job. So, we're here to help. So, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, is there a timer ready? So let's hear an update on DocGraph, one of the first most successful projects on MedStartr and an acceleration client.
Sure.
With Ashish and CareSet.
Thanks, Alex. So I've got to attribute a lot of why I'm here to MedStartr, because when Fred and I first received our first FOIA response from CMS, we didn't know exactly what to do with the data. So we began propagating it through a data science conference called Strata, which is put up by O'Reilly. Fred is the author of Hacking Healthcare, which is an O'Reilly media publication, and so they invited us to drop that data on the main stage. About 2 weeks later, we started our project with MedStartr, and about a month later, we had raised a little over $50,000, which is why we left what we were doing as our day jobs and began really pruning and growing a community of data scientists around the country. So we have about 800 data scientists. We were working with Merck, actually, Athena Health, Robert Wood Johnson, a few other foundations that help us to propagate the open data that comes out of healthdata.gov. We've also started some independent projects. One's called Batea, which helps improve the quality of medical articles in Wikipedia. But what happened as a result of DocGraph, because DocGraph itself, and we all look at the Healthcare Data Consortium, which actually just shut down last week. It's very difficult to run a data-driven, open data-driven, nonprofit or for-profit organization. One of the updates I've got is actually docgraph.org is converting to docgraph.com. That's not being announced until January, but you guys are my community, and we want to be open with y'all at least. So in 2013, we took a dozen of the data scientists that we had met in the DocGraph data science community and started CareSet. So we could amalgamate and aggregate all the data that was coming out of healthdata.gov and collate it essentially on an annual basis. So 2012 data should all get viewed with other 2012 data sets, 2013, 2014, 2015. And what we have as a result, and I've got a couple of slides here that sort of just speak to the general case in, like what's going on in healthcare, a couple problem slides, the classic pitch deck. Waste is a big problem, and for pharma, engagement to physicians is also a huge challenge. Just engagement in general in healthcare is a huge challenge. So the problem behind the problem, what we think, our theory is that opacity in a private world is in fact the problem behind the problem. So if I can't be open with my public medical record, how is the system going to learn from the experience that I've had as a patient? And if the physicians can't be open about their cohort of patients, how can the system, again, learn about the care patterns that are going on? So this is the slide that Alex and I just sort of touched on. We started with MedStartr. This is the result of MedStartr. We had about 85 partners and data users within the first 30 days and 800 now. This is the result. 2 years later, we delivered Patch to the market, which I'm now calling population analytics for transitional care hospitals, but really it was just patching together all the disparate data sets that are coming out of healthdata.gov, which is a huge challenge. And then making that service available to the providers, to pharma, to ACOs, so they can understand their networks, their containment models, leakage, and all the financial drivers for value-based care. So this is a model that comes out of Patch. In blue, you'll see the ACO. That's actually Apollo Med ACO, publicly traded ACO in Los Angeles market. In orange are the urologists that they're sharing patients with. Thickness of line indicates how many patients are going between in that referral arc in the network. The size of the orange dot tells you approximately how many patients that specialist is getting from the network. The contents of our database now includes EHR attestations for about 300,000 ambulatory care providers in all the hospitals that have attested both modular and independent, like Epic shops, as well as all the modular shops that use about a dozen different technologies and a lot of interoperability to get their systems working. We focus on these 5 Ps. This is an indication of kind of what data we've got: demographic data, teaming data, meaningful use. Part B data, the outpatient billing, CPT coded. Part D, the prescribing volumes. Confirmation of presence in the PCOS database, as well as Part A, DRG, is coming live. This is a view of what a teaming report looks like, filtered down for urologists and the internal medicine doctors that share patients with that urologist. Then an example of the prescribing pattern data. And we can also do summaries at the network level now, so we are able to look at an ACO and understand what are the aggregate prescriptions that this ACO is delivering in the market, what are the aggregate CPTs that they're using, and this is a CPT utilization summary for the same provider network. Or this is actually for 222 New York City-based urologists, 104 of which bill diagnostic bladder screening in the outpatient center. Oh, thank you. All right, I'll go straight to the, we're establishing deeper relationships with CMS and HHS. We're learning a lot from our ACOs and pharmaceutical clients. We're thinking about crowdfunding again, but maybe using the Jobs Act. This is our team. Thanks. Questions?
Thank you, Ashish. Panelists, do you have questions about how CareSet works for pharma in particular?
All right, it seems like you have a lot of data. How much are you charging for it, and how do you make money?
So we make money by charging for it, and it's usually, so we're finding that each segment, each stakeholder in the market has drastically different margins and drastically different budgets for data, right? And so what we're using as an analogy, sort of like, well, if you're a skilled nursing corporation, that you really need the data that's appropriate for the post-acute. And so we've subset that and create a version of Patch for the skilled nursing and post-acute, and that's got a price mark. Acute care facilities kind of care for everything, including how their ACOs and the primary care is behaving. Yeah. So they pay sort of the highest price tag. Pharmaceutical companies, that we have a couple of those as clients, and they're looking at data across the country. They're also asking us to do research on the ACOs, so we build models for them. And when that happens, there's some custom reporting and custom pricing that comes with that. You want a specific dollar sign?
I mean, I guess a range of dollar sign, like what's the cheapest and what's the most expensive per engagement, and then sort of what are you going to do? I guess
sure.
You've already been selling, so how much are you doing in revenue, and what are your margins like?
So margins are not incredibly great. As a software as a service company, your first few clients actually just pay for the ramp up. We've got 11 employees now. We sort of take every dollar and reinvest it right into our people. Our highest ticket sale is $250,000 a year for sort of the all-in full, you've got Patch and you've got our team working and a dedicated AE. The lowest I think we've done is the City of Houston account analyzing primary care to home health relationships for a home health company, and they're actually just getting reports. So they don't actually have a Patch SaaS experience. They have the results of our data that's really tuned to them. I think they pay $10,000 a year for that.
They are. These people are locked in for multiple years. Like your $250,000 client, that's like not a one-time like consulting fee to build the model. That's a yearly access fee.
Yeah. It comes with access, training, as well as some time from us to help them. Like if they're a specific use case in specific markets and they need medical group modeling or IPA modeling or ACO modeling, that's where my team comes in. I've got dedicated researchers that just do very use case specific modeling for the client.
And most of your team is the data scientist, correct?
Now, my team is probably half data scientists. The core team originally was all data scientists, myself and 2 others, Fred's younger brother, and myself. Now we're adding a lot more kind of account executive and customer service folks, right?
Sales
to
ops.
help translate the use case into a data science use case, and then back from a data science output to what the customer will use.
Got it.
Do you view yourself more of a software as a service company first and foremost?
I think that in healthcare, software as a service is a kind of a misnomer, especially at the enterprise level. So the idea that you could just have a client come to your website, register on their own, and really not talk to anybody, that's just not what we are.
Sure, and I think that leads to my second question regarding scale. So I have quite a bit of experience regarding SaaS, and especially in healthcare, and how do you scale something like that? Because many times in healthcare, each individual engagement has its own unique qualities.
So what we've discovered is that the last mile is generally best achieved by the consultants that already have the relationship with that client. So some of my most, maybe the least margin account, but also most successful account is the one where I've got a consultant that's working on the last mile, and so that they assist us through the sales process as well as through implementation and digesting the output that comes out of the platform. So it's very like software with a lot of service, SaaS, sauce. Yeah, like really. Yeah, SWAS. I think software with a service, right?
Quick follow-up for you then.
Yeah.
Who do you view as your biggest competitors?
So the largest in sheer size is another time series claims data analysis company called Advisory Board. They've got Crimson Market Advantage. And so because they have so many relationships in their season, they have inpatient information from a lot of commercial payers. Since we're partnered with CMS and HHS, we have uniform information across the country. So we think that we'll have a leg up with that, a leg up against them, because the cost of our data is fundamentally a lot lower than the cost of re-engaging all these, sort of kind of rewind and then get back in with all these hospitals. So our price mark is going to be part of how we can be competitive to clients that could not otherwise afford advisory board services. And there's a rash of new starts as well.
Okay, everybody, thank you from CareSet. Thanks, Ashish. Good job. So now, panelists, if you could finish up your score sheets and then turn them all in. We're actually going to do the final scoring for PharmaTech after lunch, because obviously our scorekeeper was kind of otherwise occupied. So now, my friend, Amy Cueva from MadPow is going to regale us with 15 minutes or so on how to design for momentum, because if you don't engage people, and I think this is a good time to talk about my Alex's theory of engagement. Basically, I figure first you have 1 second to get people's attention, and then you have 3, and then you have 5, and then you have 7. And if you get people for 7 seconds, then you might be able to get 11. And if you get 11, you might be able to get 13. The thing is that every moment that you're talking to somebody, you need to actually engage, talk to them, make eye contact, and actually make them interested in everything you're saying. Well, the best way to do that, especially with an online application, is by design. From the moment you first experience something, it has to be awesome. So Amy is the mistress of awesome when it comes to design. She'll take it. And she's been a good friend to MedStartr and Health 2.0 New York. And you can tell from her slides, she's got skills, right? Mad skills. Anyway, so she's the Chief Experience Officer, right, at MadPow, also the founder. And I will get out of the way. Oh, and right after this, it's lunch, so.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Should I use this instead? This would be better? Oh, the switch. That's key.
Switch.
Switch. How about
Switch,
now? Okay,
which is good.
So the focus of my presentation is empathy. I have empathy for you guys. You're probably hungry. So I'm going to talk fast. And when Alex gives me the courteous, we'll end there. So I'm Amy, one of the founders at MadPow and Chief Experience Officer. I oversee our health practice, where we work with organizations from across the health spectrum: payers, providers, government, nonprofit, health tech, and even pharma. And in the process of working with these diverse organizations, we're able to get a unique perspective into what works, what doesn't, what are the gaps, the opportunities, and the unmet needs. MadPow is an experienced design agency, and we're really passionate in health. We also work in finance, education, and technology. But our passion for health led us to found a conference, actually 5 years ago, dedicated to exploring the overlap of health and design, how human-centered design can help us improve health experiences. And that conference is April 5th and 6th in Boston. Alex was courageous enough to speak at our first one 5 years ago. So we're talking about momentum today. Something that's key in building momentum is change. We need to change in order to get going in the right direction and build momentum in that direction. But the world hates change. But I think we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because change is necessary. We see the oftentimes terrible state of affairs in health in terms of how people experience the system. We feel it, and we desire change. We want to make things better. And there's so many great things happening. All of you people here today trying to make a difference, and that's what's required. I do think that design provides a pathway to inspire, motivate, and guide change, and can help us improve health experiences. And I'm going to share with you why I think that. I think empathy-inspired design. Empathy is a gateway to change. And it can help us change as individuals, help us find our direction, an inspired direction. It can help our businesses be more customer-focused and deliver results. And I also think it can deliver impact at the societal level. How many of you have been affected by a health situation, either yours, your own, or through a loved one? It's part of the human experience, right? In the process of coming to grips with adversity I was experiencing in my own life, having a daughter who was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, going through a divorce, facing the addiction of a loved one, and my own anxiety and depression, I thought of this concept, wounded healer. And so I did it a little bit, actually, in sharing my patient story and seeing other people share their patient story, and joining Regina Holliday's walking gallery, as Georgina will be speaking later, and Alex showed you his jacket as well. I also gave a soul-bearing presentation at the XX and Health retreat. And again, seeing everybody sharing their patient stories, it just firmed up this notion in my mind. And so I did a little bit of research into the wounded healer concept and found that that Carl Jung actually coined the term. He said a good half of every treatment that probes it all deeply consists in the doctor's examining himself. It is his own hurt that gives a measure to his power to heal. And we know hurt. We know what it's like to experience pain, confusion, fear, and anxiety. And that gives us greater capacity to feel, to understand the pain, confusion, fear, and anxiety of another. I believe that empathy helps us find our purpose, fuels our passion, and helps us find our drive and our direction. But people will tell us we're wrong. We have to be ready for that, especially you all who are trying to do something new with your startups. People will tell you you're wrong. But we need to embrace our unique perspective, and with the courage of our conviction, seek out those who share it. Because change isn't easy, it's difficult. Insist upon pretense and you'll have it. Insist upon mediocrity and it's yours. Insist upon beauty and you'll find it. Insist upon learning and you'll learn. Insist upon living with great passion and you'll see differently. Because I think adversity makes us stronger. The adversity we've experienced in our own lives with the challenges we face in our health and whatever helped us find our idea, our passion, our vision, but also as an industry, healthcare is ripe with adversity. Medical costs are still the #1 reason for bankruptcy in the United States. We have new FDA regulations, new legislation, organizations with a lot of competing perspectives and institutional residue, I'll call it. So, and few easy or clear solutions. So we certainly have our fair share of adversity in health. But I do think it makes us stronger and even better equipped to figure out what needs to be done to improve the situation. I do think that what is good for the people we serve is ultimately good for the business. In the Harvard Business Review, Belinda Parmer wrote that there's nothing soft about it. Empathy is a hard skill that should be required from the boardroom to the shop floor. Empathy is not this touchy-feely concept. It can fuel and drive business innovation. When we align with the needs of the people we serve, they're going to choose us, be loyal to us, and grow with us. The Design Management Institute scorecarded publicly traded organizations in terms of their enacted commitment to design and found that those who have made that commitment outperform those who have not by 228% on the stock market. This isn't idealism, it's good business. The Design ROI project also looked at companies in terms of their commitment to design and found that those who are committed are differentiated in the marketplace as well. When we look at the value of design, we can look at the inverse. What can happen if we don't focus on design? Jonathan Chariot's about to publish a book called Tragic Design. He heard a story of a little girl who died when the nurses treating her couldn't clearly see in the EMR the treatment protocol. So she died of toxicity. And that situation led him to write this book and explore how we can design systems that will save lives and prevent death. So good design helps. Here's one example. Redesign of a Humana self-service pharmacy, mail-order pharmacy experience. We drove self-service orders up 20%. And that's nifty, delivering business results. But a website redesign isn't all that's needed. When we look at the maturation of design inside of organizations, we find it goes from hitting it with the pretty stick, right, make it look real good, so it demos well, to embracing user experience as a core discipline and critical success factor, to weaving empathy and customer centricity into the DNA of the organization. And that's kind of the ultimate in maturity. And we need to make the patient the focus, like in Dr. Wen's diagram there, but also consider the ecosystem. Right now, the patient's left in the center of a very disconnected ecosystem to navigate on their own. And the health system functions, but it doesn't come as close to whole health as we'd hope possible, considering our human capacity to care, to connect, and to innovate. But we can gather together around shared objectives and design an ecosystem of care. So if we look at and trace a patient's path through the ecosystem, what organizations are they interacting with? What organizations have shared objectives? Can we collaborate with? It sounds cheesy, but I think collaboration is the new innovation. We're seeing a lot of one-off solutions that are operating in a vacuum. We need to figure out how to extend the typical business boundaries that we're operating within and build services and relationships that connect to each other. It was in that spirit of partnership and collaboration that we built an HIV medication adherence application, partnership with the CDC, JSI, and nonprofit AIDS services organizations, as well as HIV patients themselves. And we were looking at how to move beyond nagging in terms of medication adherence and what truly drives non-adherence with HIV patients in making the social connection inside the application. Cindy Gallup's a provocateur in the advertising industry, and she sums it up quite well with this quote, "Shared values plus shared action equals shared profit, both financial and social." And this is important. So we've talked about how empathy can fuel our individual direction, how empathy can help us find direction as a business, but it also can help us get to societal change as well. It's an experience economy right now. Financial services companies are realizing this. They've gone through an evolution that we're now starting to go through in health, where they want to move beyond the transactional and selling products and services and enabling self-service interactions. And they want to become a financial partner with the people they serve. Now imagine if a large bank could help its customers save just 5% more. That would be a benefit to the bank, a benefit to the customer, and would have a societal impact as well. I think when society wins, business wins. We can go after the quick profit, but ultimately what will lead to momentum and longevity is doing that, aligning with the purpose of consumers. We have more aware consumers now, and they know and make decisions based upon what kind of companies align with what's important to me, and what kind of companies do I want to do business with. So as an organization, we can clarify what is our purpose beyond profit and weave that focus into everything that we do so that we can make a profit while we're also delivering on our purpose. And I think we're going to start to see a trend here. I think corporate social responsibility and customer experience disciplines will start to merge. And this is really exciting. So what a corporation seeks to do in terms of its purpose and what kind of experience it seeks to deliver to its customers are going to come together. And it's going to go beyond philanthropy and beyond advertising and marketing and be woven into the product. We explore a lot ethics and purpose at MadPow. And this led a couple of our designers to develop the Designer's Hippocratic Oath, looking at the impact we have as technologists in this space to do no harm and to create solutions that are going to help people. So this oath was crowdsourced by designers throughout the industry, and you can find it at Designer's Oath. So I have a few tips for you in terms of how to integrate empathy into your organizations, large or small, and I'll share those with you. Number one, to become students of the problem, inclusive in our approach. So to get outside of the four walls of your WeWork space or your organization or your meeting room and get face time with the real people who are going to use or be affected by your solutions. People might tell you it's a great idea, but the more and more people you talk to are actually going to use this or be decision makers, the better. And immerse key stakeholders in the process. It's really important for everybody and the whole team to get the face time with the end user, the patient, the clinician. Humana did an excellent thing where they put C-suite executives, paired them with an ethnographer, and they spent 1 day per month with a Medicare member, the whole day, just to get to know them as people. And they weren't supposed to pull strings on their behalf, though that did happen. But as a result, they said, oh, wow, there's so much we can do to make things better for these members. Joe, now I know him, what can we do? So they funded an 80-person consumer experience team as a result and have committed themselves to improving the member experience in the coming years. So Clayton Christensen talks about establishing a good theory and says it's in understanding the people we serve in the present that we can construct a theory about the future. So the best way we can understand people is through that face time and that ethnography. And when we're having face time with people, we may notice their emotion, we may notice our emotion. Emotion's huge because it tells us where to focus, where we're doing well, and where to improve. Emotion can affect the trajectory of the patient's path forward, but it can also lead to a visceral understanding on our part, beyond cognitive understanding, of the direction we need to head, and again, can fortify our drive. Sarah pointed out in this presentation, Everybody Hurts, Content for Kindness, that we need to design for people at their worst. We're oftentimes looking at the happy path of ideally, how we want everything to work, but we need to consider the obstacles and the boundaries and what can go wrong and provision for that. So you've seen personas. They're one way of keeping the patient, the clinician who are designing for front and center, enabling us to walk in their shoes and explore opportunities that may exist for them. And again, that enhanced understanding will fuel our innovation. And we can also look at their path. So look at their psychographic, their behavioral, all of that data, but also look at the interplay of their emotion with their journey, and not just their interaction with your company, but their entire health journey. Like one of the diagrams we saw earlier, the person's bopping around, in the ecosystem. We need to understand that so we can see how we connect to it. We looked at emotion in this decision support tool we created for maternity care, and the focus was reducing the anxiety associated with the unknown so that pregnant women could make better decisions for their treatment and be informed, empowered consumers. Kind of modified Maslow's hierarchy of needs for health. And starting with trustworthy, going to easy, kind, meaningful, very cool. Oftentimes, we're seeing the very cool. And there's room for that. Very cool is very cool. But in this industry, we have shiny object syndrome. And we want that cool, neat thing when we haven't delivered on trust and ease and kindness and meaning. So I'd encourage all of us to start with the functional and move to the relatable and then into the delightful. And to consider those off-screen moments, right? The moments when the clinician and the person are connecting face-to-face, or the moments when the patient's with the family trying to explain to them, oh yeah, by the way, I'm changing the family's diet, no more sugar, no more carbs, and they're like, what? How can we engage the family in the patient's care? We can look at every single touch point in the ecosystem, an email, a call center interaction, a print piece, an ad, a conversation with the person at the front desk. Look at every single interaction or touch point and evaluate it against the hierarchy of needs and evaluate it against the purpose of your organization. We all know this. The experience that customers, patients, clinicians have is a byproduct of how we're organized internally. We may have a bunch of brilliant people, but if the environment's not collaborative and creative, we're not able to bring those experiences to market. So we're looking now at how to train organizations in empathy and human-centered design to build more creative, collaborative teams that are capable of innovating and bringing great products to market, working better together. We recently trained 60 clinicians in a hospital environment in human-centered design so they could use it as a toolkit to incrementally improve patient experience over time. I'm almost done. And evaluate and measure. It's so important. You can measure empathy, and that will help everybody, including CEOs, pinpoint their customers' strengths and weaknesses and seeing how they rank alongside competitors. So in closing, empathy will inspire direction, fuel business innovation, and deliver positive human impact. Not just idealism, good business. And that's all. Thank you.
That was very cool. Thank you. And not just kind and all that other stuff. So thank you for your attention for this morning. That concludes the morning session. At 12:30, Microsoft is going to come in here and show off some of the cool new stuff. So if you guys want to come get your lunch and see that, that's good. They are our venue sponsor today. We should all be very appreciative. I know I am. Talk amongst yourselves if you're, and lunch is served. Thank you, Jose.